Hellboy, why are you listening to that podcast?
Gameweasel with Matt Coe.
Coming up on this week's show, things go bump in the night with Hellboy, the Science of Evil. I get all ninja-y with Ninja Gaiden Dragon Sword on the DS. The guys at Capcom tell us about their new Bionic Commando game on Xbox Live Arcade. And you can win a bumper goodie bag of games from my very own collection. The things I do for you guys. But first, here's the news.
News.
There's yet more hints that Max Payne 3 may be on the way, thanks to actress Mona Sachs hinting she could be providing a voice for it at the Comic-Con event earlier this week. The flawed but interesting bullet time-inspired film noir comic book game is already a probably rubbish film out in October. And finally, the PlayStation 3's Play TV, which turns your PS3 into a PVR, will finally be available next month for just under 70 quid. Good news, as it's cheaper than previously announced and will let you record shows up to 1080i resolution onto your hard drive. Neat!
Gameweasel.com. Review.
The first Hellboy movie was an enjoyable romp, although I did nod off for a couple of minutes towards the end. I'm also looking forward to watching the sequel directed by Guillermo del Toro. This game also takes artistic direction from the Italian director and also features the voice of Ron Perlman as you fight the forces of evil over a few long levels. It's your standard third-person action adventure. You explore graveyards, forests and the like, beating up lots of mythical creatures on the way. Lizard men, werewolves and other ghostly beings all make an appearance as you hammer buttons to punch them or grapple them and throw them towards enemies or use them to get back some energy yourself. The problem is, that's all you do in the game. Most combat is also in an arena where you have to beat everyone up before the barriers are lifted. I wouldn't mind doing this if the combat was full of exciting combos such as in Devil May Cry. Unfortunately, combat is slow and repetitive and just not much fun. I found myself just mashing the buttons, hoping no more enemies would pop up just so I could get to the end of each stage. Even end of stage bosses are boring and easy to beat. The game could have been a little bit better with a coherent story and some good cutscenes maybe back at the HQ, but you don't even get that. Just a hodgepodge of levels spread across many years that don't appear to have much relevance to each other. If you like, you can also play the game as Liz Sherman and Abe Sapien in co-op mode split screen or over live, but this doesn't really offer anything to make the game much more fun to play. It also looks like a last-gen game. I quite like the Tim Burton-esque look of it, but everything just looks very flat and a bit rushed. Konami games are usually quality, but this one isn't. Hellboy should go back from where he came. 3 out of 10.
Email us at gamesweasel@btpodshow.com.
This week there's a slightly different competition. Yes, I've got a bumper goodie bag worth over £300 full of games I need to give away to stop me drowning in the stuff here at my house. So, if you want to be the lucky individual to win software in double figures for all formats, including Unreal Tournament 3 and Prince Caspian for the PlayStation 3, Metal Gear Portable Ops for the PSP, and Beijing 2008 for the Xbox 360, listen closely. I'd like you guys to review the show and within that put a link to Gameweasel.com so others who haven't yet discovered it can. Then send a link to your review, comment or blog to Gameweasel@btpodshow.com and the most creative will win the bag of gaming booty. You can review or comment on iTunes, Facebook, MySpace, YouTube or any other forum you like, so do get creative. Send me the link so I can read it and I'll announce the winner in a couple of weeks. And well done to Claire Allen, Steve Pugh, Sue Fisher, Andrew Kotabaz and Ricky Gray. You've all won copies of Beijing 2008 for the Xbox 360. And while I'm giving stuff away, don't forget you can get 10 and 20% respectively off domain names if you enter the codes Weasel1 or Weasel2 at GoDaddy.com. Remember, every time you use those codes, your country might win another Olympics gold medal.
Gamesweasel.com. Review.
This is Ryu Hayabusa's first outing on the Nintendo DS, and I've been itching to play it ever since I saw footage of the interesting control method. You hold the DS like a book and draw on the screen to control the little ninja. He follows you wherever you drag the stylus and swipes and swooshes at his enemies when you draw through them. If you've ever played Zelda Phantom Hourglass, you'll get into this straight away, and this is actually great fun to play. Occasionally you are left scribbling the screen like a teenager desperately trying to finish an exam before the time runs out, and this method method does actually work quite well, although is ultimately less fun than if you actually think about how you're fighting. Although the 3D models in the game itself are quite a low resolution, the backdrops are really nice and the cutscenes are drawn out like a comic book. Your lady friend, who you control at the very beginning, gets kidnapped by the evil Spider Clan, and you must go and get her back by exploring forests, villages and other worlds by stepping through portals. As well as swiping on the screen, you can also tap on enemies to throw shurikens and fire arrows at them, and you can tap a symbol to cast a spell. Once you do this, you then have a small amount of time to draw a symbol on the screen and then can control electricity, fire and other elements to lay some ninja smackdown on your enemies' tender behinds. Of course, the DS is made of two screens, so on the left screen there's also a handy map that shows where you're going to make sure you're never left wandering around, and thankfully there are regular save points in the game, so if the action does get a little bit too tough, you're not left retracing your steps too much. If you're used to the console versions of this game, this one won't challenge you as much, and it's a lot shorter. However, it's still a quality game in its own right and is still a great ninja romp. Ninja Gaiden Dragon Sword gets an excellent 8 out of 10.
Gameweasel.
Now it's time for some info on the brand new Bionic Commando game on Xbox Live Arcade.
The original NES Bionic Commando, of course, is not the original game. I mean, it was an arcade game before, but the NES version is without a doubt the version from the 80s that really deserves like a remake, because it has the unique enemies and the storyline and everything. It's just coherent. Everything in the game is something that you can develop and continue building on top of. Also, that's the version that I think most people remember as the cult classic.
I collected all the screenshots from the original game and pixelated them so you can clearly see what kind of color scheme they were using. The colors in the original are really saturated, really high colors. The reason for this, I believe, was the fact that they needed to separate the character from the background. So we wanted, of course, to keep the same style, not only because we like the actual colors, but also because we need the same kind of readability in our game. Rad Spencer, the Bionic Commando, represents the street 80s,
With the police jacket,
army meets, cool 80s guy.
Like, this guy goes to war in style.
Yeah, exactly. That's the whole idea. And the reference for this was Iceman from Top Gun.
Oh yeah.
We had Marty McFly, also sort of 80s icons, legends. While Super Joe, we try to keep a more a specific American touch to. He has this kind of
he's the American
Sam Elliott cowboy approach.
The bosses of the original NES game, I mean, they weren't that great. Gameplay-wise, they didn't work, really. So they had to be completely redesigned, and I mean, that ties into the visual design as well. We needed completely new bosses that really used kind of
the unique mechanics of the gameplay itself.
Yeah, swinging, you need to use the arm to beat the boss and kind of reveal the weak spot of the boss. And the really classic, you can only shoot the boss on the big red bulb thing. So we wanted to bring that into the game and also make sure that you always need to use the arm and the weapons to beat the boss.
Yeah.
And we went crazy with the bosses.
Yeah, we really did.
All the boss concepts, I mean, they started on a gameplay concept. I had an idea for how we would fight the boss, and then I brought it to Jacob, and then the visual, like the design of how it should look in detail, really took shape.
Yeah, it was definitely a gameplay governed design process, where the bosses in some cases might look odd simply because they support a strange or unique gameplay.
I had an idea of a boss where you would kind of unscrew bolts on the front of it, and shield plates would fall off, and then you would reveal like the weak spot of the boss.
Yeah, it is. In the original, there was a silly enemy. I can't remember which area, but
Area 7.
Yeah, Area 7 was controlling a small
tank of some sort.
Yeah, some kind of machine device, and that's something we just used as to ignite the inspiration for the siege machine. Or all the bosses actually being controlled by small people. Still an element which is hilarious and needed to be, taken care of in some manner.
People have been waiting for 20 years for a sequel or a remake of this game, because the wire mechanic doesn't age, so it's timeless. The fan expectations are, of course, huge.
And you can download the game on Xbox Live Arcade right now.
Gameweasel.com.
That's it for yet another show. Thank you very much for downloading. Now, next week, do remember to download because Randy Orton, the wrestling superstar, will be telling us all about his life as a wrestler and SmackDown vs. Raw 2009. That's an exclusive only on Gameweasel. Until next week, keep those thumbs busy.